The doctor greeted Taesung, asking how he was feeling that day. Taesung's thoughts echoed with frustration as he found the question repetitive. He informed the doctor about the pain in his legs, knowing well that the response would be predictable. The doctor suggested increasing his medication dosage and called Nurse Kim for assistance. Nurse Kim assured him that she would guide him back to his room. Taesung's thoughts reflected a sense of resignation, no longer concerned with finding out what went wrong. He felt that everything was already over when he woke up. He was left only with gazes full of pity, monthly insurance payments, and the harsh reality of being half paralyzed. He recalled the car accident that changed his life, caused by a drunk driver. That day started off like any other, with him making a routine stop at the convenience store for a can of beer and some snacks to end his day. But that day, unfortunate luck struck, abruptly ending his ordinary existence with excruciating pain. Nurse Kim gently laid him down on the bed while Taesung experienced phantom pain in his legs as if they were being severed. He had no choice but to rely on drugs each night. He pondered the saying that God only gives trials that one can endure, yet he openly expressed his inclination towards death. With half of his body paralyzed, Taesung acknowledged the limitations he faced. Reading novels became his solace, providing an escape into worlds with happy endings. Novels with happy endings offered him comfort during moments of despair. As he read a novel called Magician Who Dominates the World, he realized he was nearing its conclusion and expressed his intent to finish it by the night. The novel depicted a protagonist named Aiden, who annihilated everything in his path and ultimately achieved victory, opting to create a new world. He ended the old world, erasing everyone's memories, and established a new world according to his desires. Even those who suffered traumatic deaths and held value in his heart found themselves in this new world, living as blissful winners. Taesung couldn't help but express his disbelief, questioning the purpose of the main character's arduous journey only to undo it all and bring about the end of the world. He was perplexed as to why the randomly chosen novel he read had to have a tragic ending. Tears welled up in his eyes as he exclaimed his longing for happiness. He pondered on the futility of hoping for a happy ending, realizing that even if he were to wake up tomorrow, true happiness seemed unattainable for him. As Taesung opened his eyes, he was startled to see a message in front of him, displaying the beginning magician who dominates the world. Perplexed, he quickly sat up on the bed, wondering if he had just hallucinated. Confused about his surroundings, he realized he had fallen asleep in the hospital. Doubtfully, he questioned if he was still dreaming and reached for his phone, only to find it missing. Instead, he noticed a water bowl, and as he looked into it, he was shocked to see a face that didn't belong to him. Suddenly, another message materialized in front of him, shocking him further. The message revealed that he was now in the world of Magician Who Dominates the World and must live as the character named Mord Vernars. Taesung connected the dots, realizing that Magician Who Dominates the World was the novel he had been reading the previous night, and Mord was an extra character in the story. Confusion and disbelief swirled within him. Then, another message appeared, warning that if Mord died, he would die as well. Taesung's thoughts raced as he tried to process the situation. Overwhelmed with astonishment, he attempted to stand and was astounded to discover that he could now feel his legs and stand on his own. The sensation of the wooden floor beneath his feet was vivid and real, a stark contrast to his previous paralysis. In a flurry of messages, more information flooded Taesung's awareness. His head throbbed with pain as he realized he could feel all of Mord's memories pouring into his mind. He became aware of the life Mord had lived and how it had ended. Mord Vernar was the son of the influential Archduke Vernar's family, considered a bastard son with immense power. Even if the protagonists were to unite against him, victory was far from guaranteed. However, during a magic ritual aimed at gaining full control over his psyche, Mord was ambushed and killed by the protagonist and his group. In short, Mord was an extra, a character with a supporting role in the narrative. Taesung's mind filled with questions as he pondered why he had become Mord. Suddenly, a new message materialized, urging him to change the fate of destruction in order for his wish to be granted. Taesung contemplated the meaning behind this cryptic message, considering that it might be referring to the ending of the novel itself. He voiced his understanding, realizing that the task before him was to protect the world from the protagonist who would eventually bring about its destruction. Taesung deliberated on the situation, acknowledging that he might be dreaming due to his weariness with his paralyzed life. However, he couldn't bear the thought of returning to his mundane existence. Whether this was a divine prank or not, he resolved not to wake up if it was indeed a dream. With determination coursing through him, he clenched his fist, recognizing the opportunity presented to him. His wish was straightforward, to regain his body as it was before the accident. Yet, he realized that he shouldn't settle for just that. Armed with the knowledge of the novel magician who dominates the world and the powers and talents of Mord, he contemplated the challenge of changing the fate of destruction. He believed it was worth a shot. A determined smile spread across T-Sung's face as he reaffirmed his decision. He wouldn't just try to save this world, he would undoubtedly succeed. Mord Vernars was a member of the Archduke Vernars family's bloodline. He was burdened with the label of being a bastard child, unaware of his mother's identity. His life was filled with hardship, starting from the tragic event where his mother passed away just days after his birth. Consequently, he was subjected to the cruel nickname of the bastard who killed his own mother. Helpless and unable to resist the torment of others, Mord's existence was overshadowed by the guilt associated with his mother's death. However, Mord's life took a significant turn when he reached a crucial milestone. Members of the Vernars bloodline awakened their powers upon turning 15, known as the New Blood Awakening. This process involves enduring excruciating pain akin to one's entire body being engulfed in flames. However, those who survive the New Blood Awakening are rewarded with formidable powers. For individuals outside the Archduke family, the chances of surviving this ordeal are less than 1 in 5. Against the odds, Mord not only survives the New Blood Awakening but also acquires strong powers. In the final letter left by his mother, she instructs Mord to seek out Archduke Vernar's family if he survives his 15th birthday. He follows his mother's guidance and embarks on a journey to the residence of the Archduke family, where he agrees to undergo a test to gain recognition from his unseen father. T-Sung reflected on his memories, acknowledging that he had arrived here shortly after Mord arrived at the Archduke Vernar's family residence for the test. Mord was an extra in the novel Magician Who Dominates the World, while Archduke Vernars played a significant role as one of the main antagonists. T-Sung possessed extensive knowledge about the Vernars family and recognized that since the Archduke Vernars family already have legitimate heirs, it was unlikely for Mord, being a bastard son, to be accepted. However, Mord's longing to be acknowledged as the Archduke's son, fueled by his upbringing without parents, became a leverage point for the Archduke to manipulate Mord into becoming his loyal servant. Having awakened his new blood power, Mord possessed immense strength, surpassing even that of the protagonist. However, T-Sung remained uncertain about the true extent of Mord's power. T-Sung contemplated the desire to test his own powers when suddenly a man entered the room and reprimanded him for forgetting the significance of the day. T-Sung recognized the man as Todd, the instructor who will oversee the upcoming test. Todd's physique and demeanor aligned with the image of a typical instructor. Todd questioned T-Sung about his stare, to which T-Sung approached him and confirmed his identity as Mr. Todd. Todd noticed a change in Mord's tone and expression but dismissed it as his own imagination. Todd reminded T-Sung about the explained tests scheduled for that day, focused on assessing his potential. Considering T-Sung's physical fitness despite not having received any prior training, Todd assumed T-Sung was capable of fighting. T-Sung realized that he would have to engage in a fight but found solace in the fact that it was not a fight for his life. He welcomed the opportunity to test his newfound powers. As both of them made their way towards the training ground, Todd brought up something he had mentioned the previous day, questioning if he had forgotten. T-Sung responded by asking what he had forgotten, prompting Todd's reminder not to disclose that he was the Archduke's son. T-Sung affirmed his understanding, acknowledging the unspoken rule regarding bastards. However, he believed it to be pointless since rumors about his true identity had already spread. There were even whispers suggesting that the Archduke had already met Mord before. T-Sung knew that once he became an official warrior, everyone would know who the bastard truly was. As they arrived at the training grounds, several trained individuals were already present, and they greeted Todd. One of the trainees, while looking at T-Sung, inquired if he was the newbie being tested that day. T-Sung observed that the trainees appeared older than usual and suspected that they were already seasoned warriors. Todd addressed T-Sung, assuming that he had heard about the distinctive fighting style of the Vernars compared to ordinary warriors. T-Sung confirmed his knowledge, stating that untrained Vernars used weapons, but once trained, they relied solely on their own bodies for combat. Todd agreed and added that those not of Vernar's bloodline learned various combat skills and often used weapons. T-Sung reflected on the reputation of the Archduke Vernar's family as the continent's foremost organization of warriors, known for their exceptional hand-to-hand combat skills. They had reached their prestigious position without the need for weapons. T-Sung acknowledged that it might have sounded implausible, but the physical prowess of the Vernars surpassed any weapon in the world. Todd proceeded to explain that the test would determine which faction T-Sung should join and how he should be trained. He then turned to a warrior named Vince and confirmed his readiness. Vince confidently walked to the training ground, and Todd instructed T-Sung to fight against Vince, emphasizing that the results of this fight would shape his future and serve as proof of his Vernar's bloodline. Vince assessed T-Sung, expressing his curiosity about his age and pondering whose son he might be, given his already imposing stature. Vince challenged T-Sung to demonstrate his fighting skills, inviting him to engage in combat. As the fight commenced, T-Sung sighed, acknowledging that there would likely be other bastards like Mort in the training group. It was not only the Archduke who engaged in affairs. However, he pushed those thoughts aside and focused on the task at hand. T-Sung recognized the importance of power in this world and believed that only with strength could he achieve freedom. Although he wished for a peaceful and carefree life somewhere far away, he felt compelled to prove his skills in order to succeed. Without hesitation, T-Sung launched his attack, throwing a punch at Vince. Although Vince managed to dodge the attack, he was shocked to realize that T-Sung possessed fighting skills despite claiming otherwise. T-Sung, on the other hand, was pleasantly surprised by his own agility, attributing it to the boxing he had learned as a hobby when he was younger. He realized that even though it was just a casual pursuit, it had contributed to his combat abilities. He followed up with a kick aimed at Vince, who quickly blocked it with his arms as a guard but was pushed back by the force of the strike. Vince grudgingly admitted that T-Sung was skilled and accused him of lying about not knowing how to fight. T-Sung, perplexed by the accusation, denied any falsehood, stating that he merely imitated the others. Vince, angered by his response, launched an attack with his hand emitting a bluish glow. As the fight intensified, one of the trainees exclaimed in shock, realizing that Vince was using mana in combat despite T-Sung not having learned the mana technique. Concerned, the trainee pleaded with Todd to intervene. However, Todd dismissed his worries, allowing the fight to continue. T-Sung, astonished that Vince would resort to using mana against him, braced himself for the incoming attack. Vince, wearing a cunning smile, prepared to strike T-Sung with a mana-infused punch, intending to show him his place. But to Vince's surprise, T-Sung managed to dodge the punch skillfully. Vince was taken aback, wondering how a newcomer like T-Sung could see through the mana combat technique so easily. He looked at him with a mix of shock and disbelief. Meanwhile, T-Sung's hand also began glowing with bluish mana, and he confidently declared that it was now his turn. Vince raised his arms as a guard, still struggling to comprehend how he, who had spent years training in the mana combat technique, could potentially lose to a new trainee like T-Sung. But before he could fully process the situation, T-Sung's punch landed forcefully on Vince's stomach, causing him to be lifted off the ground. The impact was so powerful that T-Sung hurled Vince through the air. Witnessing T-Sung's display of strength, everyone present at the training grounds was left in shock. Todd couldn't believe his eyes and realized that he had underestimated T-Sung's abilities. He marveled at how T-Sung, whom he initially considered a newbie, had effortlessly sent an official warrior like Vince flying with such power. T-Sung confidently approached Vince, silently remarking on his incredible abilities. He realized how fortunate he was to have dodged the last attack, contemplating his growing understanding of his own power. He was still somewhat astonished by Vince's resilience and noticed that Vince was attempting to get back up. Reacting quickly, T-Sung assumed a fighting pose, ready to face him once again. He commented on Vince's durability, remarking that warriors must be built differently. However, his surprise grew as he realized that Vince had already lost consciousness. A trainee on the sidelines expressed confusion over how Vince could be defeated with just one punch. Another trainee questioned T-Sung's origins, wondering where he had come from. Looking at instructor Todd, T-Sung voiced his concern about potentially harming Vince if the fight were to continue. He admitted his lack of control over his strength. Todd considered his role as the tester and instructor and acknowledged that as an instructor, it was his responsibility to gauge the potential and power of the tester by pushing them to their limits. He believed that a tester should not be able to defeat the instructor. Todd then accused T-Sung of lying, referring to his previous claim of never having learned to fight. T-Sung insisted that it was true, asserting that he had never received formal training. Todd questioned how T-Sung could possess the ability to use mana if he was untrained in the mana combat technique. T-Sung understood Todd's doubt and activated mana in his hand to demonstrate his ability. He explained that he had been able to use mana after experiencing a high fever, but admitted his limited knowledge about it. Internally, T-Sung decided not to disclose everything, believing that he didn't need to reveal all of his secrets. Todd remained skeptical, challenging T-Sung to make him believe his story. T-Sung hesitated for a moment before deciding to share his experience of the new blood awakening before he arrived at the training grounds. T-Sung contemplated Mord's exceptional talent and abilities, acknowledging that Mord could use mana even before the new blood awakening. With the blood of the god of combat, Vernars, and the goddess of the heavens, Arita, coursing through his veins, Mord possessed an extraordinary synergy that made him a miraculous being. Tisung marveled at how Mord, without formal training until the age of 15, managed to surpass the strength of Archduke Vernars, who was considered the strongest among the successors of the god of combat. Todd remarked if Tisung's words were true, recognized him as a monster. He then asked if Tisung knew who Vince was. Tisung replied that he had met Vince for the first time that day and was unfamiliar with him. Todd revealed that Vince was a Vernars warrior who had undergone rigorous training from a young age and had successfully passed a stringent test. Tisung's victory over him carried significant weight. Acknowledging the situation, Tisung sighed inwardly. Todd informed him that he had scored 200 points on the test when the maximum was 100, implying that he had excelled. However, Tisung found himself perplexed as Todd hadn't explained anything to him until now. He expressed his confusion, stating that he didn't fully understand the purpose of the test. Todd proceeded to clarify that the test was designed to determine his current level of skill. The Archduke Vernars family had a 3-level curriculum for warriors, and fulfilling the conditions at each level would lead to promotion to the next. Only by passing the test at the final level would one become a qualified official warrior. However, Todd emphasized that the test was challenging, often causing many individuals to encounter difficulties along the way. Tisung expressed his desire to start at the first level and learn the basics of mana combat techniques. He questioned whether the second or third level would also cover the fundamentals, as he believed it would be more logical to begin at the first level. Todd was taken aback by Tisung's request and confirmed that the first level would indeed teach the basics. Tisung pointed out that fulfilling the conditions would eventually lead to promotion, prompting Todd to agree reluctantly. Todd recognized that Tisung was serious about his decision and thought that perhaps it was for the best. He realized that he couldn't offer preferential treatment to Tisung and accepted his choice. Todd informed him that someone would be sent to guide him through the necessities of the first level the following day. As Tisung lay in his bed, he contemplated the smooth progression of the test and wondered if Mord had gone through a similar process. He recalled that the novel Magician Who Dominates the World didn't provide details about how Mord became Archduke Vernars' hidden card. It only mentioned how Archduke Vernars sought to maximize Mord's potential and controlled his mind to use him as a human weapon. He speculated that Mord might have endured a similar test, imagining him being beaten up as a child and possibly starting at the first level. He contemplated the reason why he was chosen to possess Mord. Although it hadn't been particularly helpful in his own life, he realized that he had always fought against unfairness and injustice. In contrast, Mord had lived a life that was the opposite of his own. He believed that his purpose was to save the world from destruction and stop the novel's protagonist, Aiden. According to the novel, the one who completed the world fragments, which contain the essence of the world, would become the supreme god known as the Magician Who Dominates the World. Aiden, the great mage in the story, achieved this status but ended up causing the destruction of the world. Tisung understood that as a god, Aiden didn't just kill his enemies but also his friends. He was determined to prevent Aiden from becoming the destroyer of everything. He saw this as his final opportunity and made the decision to live as Mord instead of Tisung. The Archduke Vernars family held the ruling power over a nation known as the Principality of Vernars. Their opulent castle, situated at the heart of the nation, rivaled the grandeur of royal castles in other lands. The training grounds for warriors, an expansive facility, resided in the outskirts of the castle within the Outer Castle 3rd region. Mord, a trainee, was informed that he would now reside in the first level of the dormitory, conveniently close to the training facility. He marveled at the sheer size of the training facility, comparing it to a university campus, a testament to the prominence of the Vernars family. Suddenly, a loud sound startled him, and another trainee explained that it likely originated from the 3rd level training grounds. Curious, Mord questioned if a group of trainees could produce such a sound. He reasoned that even 2nd level trainees, on their path to becoming Vernars warriors, could easily surpass the limits of an ordinary human. After all, Vernars warriors were known for their ability to merge the powers of multiple individuals into one formidable force. The trainee informed Mord that they would soon arrive at the 3rd region, the Outer Castle, where his instructor would be waiting for him. Mord expressed his gratitude and disembarked from the carriage. It was at this moment that an instructor noticed Mord and greeted him as Instructor Hayes, the 1st level instructor. Mord acknowledged him and referred to him as Instructor Hayes. Instructor Hayes expressed surprise upon learning that Mord, a physically imposing individual, was placed in the 1st level. He questioned Mord's presence, assuming he must have performed poorly on the test. Mord clarified that he had actually defeated Vince in the test. Astonished, Hayes inquired further, as Vince was an official warrior. Mord confirmed the truth, stating that there was no reason to lie when the truth would be revealed eventually. He explained that he had no prior knowledge of mana combat techniques or any other battle techniques, and he had come to learn the basics. Hayes, taken aback by Mord's admission, decided to accept the situation. He instructed Mord to follow him, silently pondering how Mord could have emerged victorious against Vince without any prior training. Hayes reminded Mord to avoid distracting those who were currently training. Mord, wearing a faint smile, acknowledged the warning, realizing that even in the first level, the trainees must possess considerable strength as they aspired to become Vernar's warriors. Hayes introduced Mord to the other trainees, informing them that he was a new addition, and asked them to continue their training without paying much attention to him. Mord glanced at the other trainees and was taken aback, realizing they were all children. He questioned his decision to join the first level and wondered if he should have chosen the third level instead. He briefly contemplated changing his mind, but it was too late now. Hayes turned his attention back to Mord and inquired if he had never learned the mana combat technique. Mord admitted that he hadn't, but mentioned that he possessed mana. Hayes acknowledged this, stating that it was expected since Mord had undergone the new blood awakening. He explained that Mord had already completed the initial steps of detecting ether and creating mana, as well as collecting mana. The remaining steps were basic mana control and sense amplification, after which Mord could move on to the second level. Curious, Mord asked if he didn't need to learn any combat skills. Hayes responded by asking if Mord intended to stay at the first level for an extended period. Understanding Mord's concerns, Hayes assured him that he would teach him a few things and that Mord would be able to continue training on his own. If things went poorly, the second level instructor would step in to assist. Mord expressed his gratitude, appreciating the guidance. As Mord began his training, the other trainees were astonished by his progress. They exclaimed in shock, noting that it had only been 10 minutes since he began training. Yet his mana seemed stronger than the instructor. Mord observed the mana surrounding him and expressed his disbelief, questioning if that was all there was to it. Hayes approached Mord and informed him that he had already graduated from the first level. Mord was taken aback and thought to himself if that was it. He couldn't believe that he had progressed so quickly and successfully completed the first level. Hayes informed Mord that he could start moving on to the second level the next day. He explained that the physical reinforcement lessons in the second level were divided into 2 sub-levels. The first sub-level focused on hardening the body to minimize damage from potential accidents, while the second sub-level aimed to amplify physical abilities beyond the limitations of ordinary muscle training. Hayes mentioned that many trainees faced difficulties in mastering the skill of physical reinforcement. However, Mord confidently stated to the second level instructor that he believed he only had the practice duel test left. The instructor was taken aback, realizing that Mord was already far ahead of the second level. He decided that there was no need for the test and allowed Mord to move on to the next level, the third level. He warned Mord that graduating from the third level would be challenging, as he would face other trainees who possessed the new blood power without having learned any battle skills. Mord reflected on the fact that he hadn't learned any battle skills yet and realized that Hayes had sent him to the second level, assuming he was hiding his powers. The instructor placed his hand on Mord's shoulder and emphasized that reaching the second level only required brute strength. But becoming a warrior in the third level would be difficult, requiring hard work. Mord accepted the challenge and thought to himself that he was aware the third level would be different. He looked forward to meeting others who possessed the new blood power. In the third level training grounds, the trainees engaged in a discussion. One of them mentioned hearing about someone who passed the second level within 2 days and noted that they were also from the Vernar's bloodline, similar to Fionn. Another trainee questioned why someone from the Vernar's bloodline had started at the first level. Fionn, a red-haired individual, was asked about his plans. Fionn speculated that individuals like the one mentioned probably didn't join right away, intending to capture the attention of the Archduke. He expressed his determination to show that there were ranks within the Vernar's bloodline. Just then, a trainee pointed out Mord and informed Fionn that he believed that was the person they were discussing. Mord let out a sigh and expressed his regret, saying that he should have just come to the third level and skipped the previous 2 levels altogether. Fionn approached Mord and asked if he was the new guy. Mord questioned Fionn's intentions, and Fionn introduced himself as the captain of Class 2, stating that he was also of the Vernar's bloodline like Mord. Mord wondered if Fionn was indeed from the Vernar's bloodline like him. Fionn smiled and confirmed that he was. Mord then introduced himself as Mord, mentioning that he was supposed to be part of Class 2, although he wasn't sure for how long. In anger, Fionn released his mana and asked Mord if he thought this place was a joke. Mord clarified that he didn't view the place lightly and explained that he wasn't in a good mood at the moment, suggesting Fionn calm down. Fionn acknowledged Mord's endurance, commenting that it was expected of a Vernars. Mord confronted Fionn, stating that he didn't think he would be intimidated by a skill like that, as if he would wet his pants. In response, Fionn angrily questioned Mord's perception, mentioning that just because Mord went through the New Blood Awakening, he shouldn't think he's the only Vernars present. Fionn declared his intent to kill Mord right there. Observing the scene, one of the trainees expressed pity for Mord, noting that no one could stop Fionn. Another trainee remarked that unless the instructor arrived soon, it would be difficult for Mord to survive. Fionn attacked Mord, causing a massive cloud of dust to envelop the area upon impact. A trainee observed the tremendous power and expressed concern for Mord's well-being, hoping he would at least make it out alive. However, as the dust settled, all the trainees wore shocked expressions. It was Mord who was standing, while Fionn was on his knees. Mord looked at Fionn and commented that he had been looking forward to seeing how strong Fionn would be. But it turned out that Fionn was nothing more than a village bully.